Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we've got a very special guest with us today, Rusty Bland, who's the president of the KeHE Cares Foundation for KeHE Distributors, which is a $9 billion food distributor brand based near Chicago. And if that name KeHE rings a bell, well, perhaps you've seen the trucks driving around in the Midwest somewhere. But you may also remember Brandon Bornholt, who ran the company for a while and is a previous podcast guest and just a dear friend of the show, shall we say. But Rusty, so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jeff. So good to be here.
Rusty, now, so, Brandon kind of told the business piece. I think we're going to focus maybe a little more on the foundation piece. Now, we recognize that not everybody's maybe got a big enough company to have that large of an organization to do both and that sort of thing. But we've got some great principles to tease out for everybody. But I'd love to start, Rusty, where we start with everybody, which is just tell us a little about you, where you grew up, what your family was like growing up, that sort of thing.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And it is an honor to be here. I'm a Midwest boy. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. And so hopefully the judging won't start. But yes, I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. You're dipped in it when you grow up there.
Right. You have no choice.
Unfortunately, yes. It's kind of a sickness in some ways. But began following Jesus at 14 through an FCA study in my junior high school. Didn't grow up in church. I would say a Creaster, Christmas and Easter kind of thing. And really struggled through high school walking in two worlds, frankly, not really having a strong faith community around me, but clearly at that time, I knew that I had this desire to follow Jesus, and ended up, and a lot of these are God moments, but I ended up going to Bethel University in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is a Christian college. Played football there, met the love of my life my freshman year, and really learned how to walk as a Christian, if you will. In that season, developed lifelong friends, really began to plug into church communities. So college and going to a Christian college for me was just a total game changer as far as kind of my life and the trajectory of my life. Allison and I have been married for 36 years. We have 3 adult children. 2 are married, 1 getting married next week.
Congratulations.
So,
yes.
I'm praying for that. And then 1 grandchild. They all went to Bethel too, and they're all marrying Bethel students. So we didn't force that. It did happen organically. And my wife and I actually moved up to the Twin Cities in October to be in the mix and be with our kids and kind of be in the community up here. So that's kind of on the personal side. Just quickly, really for the first 15 years of my career, worked in a small family-owned business that was owned by my father-in-law. I had a tiny percentage of ownership. It was in the Christian retailing industry, which, if you can imagine what that was like in the 80s, 90s, and then today. So we had about 75 stores at our height, and it was an awesome business, but we eventually had to sell it in a distressed situation to a private investor, and then a year later, they let me know that they didn't need me anymore. And so it was midlife, 40, kind of looking, seeking out how the Lord would lead. And a neighbor recruited me to come to KeHE. And they wanted me to help build an e-commerce platform for the business at that time. And I had done that, amongst other things, at our Christian retail company. And so, again, another God moment was there. 4 years into it, Brandon Barnholt had joined the company as the CEO at that time then. And then one morning, a group of us were praying before work. And I still remember, like it was yesterday, this administrative assistant, elderly woman, actually, she prayed very fervently. And I was in agreement with her that God would move in our HR department because we were seeing things that were a little disconcerting at that time. And an hour later, Brandon was not in that prayer group, by the way, but an hour later, Brandon called me into his office and said, I want you to take a job in HR. And for a marketer like me, a guy that was more about, being an entrepreneur, going to HR was the last place I wanted to go. It was a
Right.
little bit like Nineveh, frankly. Um,
Yeah.
but yet I couldn't, even I couldn't deny the connection of like, this is how God moves, right? We pray and then he sends. And so he was gracious. He gave me a couple of days to think about it, but it was clear that I needed to do this. And they asked me to start something, this talent management function in HR, which I didn't even know what that was. Um, and Brand's promise was, look, this is for your development, Rusty, and I'm only going to have you go there a year, and then we'll move you somewhere else and keep moving you around the business so you just really get a well-rounded perspective. Well, 10 years later, I was actually running HR. God really moved in amazing ways, and I felt like I had a front row seat, frankly. And oftentimes it felt like a softball pitch where God would say, "Hey, put this on the tee and see what I will do." And he really moved in KE in just unbelievable ways, and so a lot of that leads to what we're doing in the foundation
Yeah.
now. That happy to get into as your questioning will lead.
Yeah, yeah. Um, when when I met you and figured out that you were kind of running the foundation, I was slightly confused because you speak like a business person. Okay.
Right, right,
Not like what I would have had in my brain as the stereotypical person running the
fair.
Kumbaya Foundation. And then
Hmm.
when you said HR, I was still a little confused, even
Right.
though I knew, oh, okay, the business, yeah, but HR. Now the marketing, I could see that part makes sense to me about your sort of natural personality. So, what is it that you think in the HR role
Mm.
um, kind of drew you to it? I know it wasn't originally your idea, but I mean, you could have gone, Brandon, get me out of here. Probably year 2 or 3 or 8.
Yeah.
What do you think about it caused you to stay for that long?
Mm. Yeah, there like so often is the case, God's working on us in all
Right.
areas of our life,
Yeah.
and that was happening in my personal life at that time. And just the missional work that I was doing a lot of international serving and doing some very intensive serving during that time, and this passion grew just to see God's kingdom come through my work, through the work of my hands. And not that that wasn't there before, but it's like one of those, it's like when you come across a verse and suddenly it just slays you. Well, that was happening to me in that season, for the people that came into work at the company every day. And what was clear, particularly the part of HR I was leading, which was all the talent processes, all the culture stuff, right? All the things that you could say deeply affect the experience of employees that come in. And KE's at about 9,000 employees now. And so, there's a lot of people coming into work every day and trusting their careers to our company. And the sense grew, that I could affect their experience perhaps more than anybody else in many ways. And I don't mean that to be, it's not, I mean, Brandon, the CEO obviously is the chief culture officer, the
Oh
chief
yeah.
everything officer, but the role I had just had such direct effect on how leaders lead, on the kind of leaders that we bring in, the kind of value statements that we create about what's important to us, and the list goes on. And so I felt God really pressing in and giving examples of saying, this is, blending together, like you said, the entrepreneurial, my MBA, the marketing, all of that coming together now into these culture elements. Again, it just became clear that it was bringing together all these passions. And maybe a different way to think about it is when you think about brand and what comes to your mind about a product is the brand manager, just they want to own what you think. And if you flip that to an internal perspective, my mindset was I really want people to think a certain way when they think about where they work. And as they're talking to people about their experience at KE, I wanted them to say certain things. And so it was kind of a marketing brand
Yeah.
perspective, but it was a kingdom lens in what they say about their workplace, born out of what they believe to be true about their workplace. And so that I think that's the best way I can describe what was happening, and just an amazing ride to bring all those things together over the past, now 15 years in these different roles.
So I am still fascinated, even though I've been around you and Brandon some, about how all this evolved. And there's kind of two things I definitely want to get into. And maybe we knock out the structure piece first.
Sure.
Um, just because one of the questions we get from people is like, okay, like I'm inspired to use my platform for generosity, but like, how do I do it? Okay. So that's one conversation. And then the second one I want to have is about kind of the way you do it. So kind of the structure of how the business works with the foundation, and then the kind of what actually happens in the foundation and how that works well, sort of internally and externally. So let's take the first one first, which is, let's talk about the ESOP and how the foundation, the structure of the business, and frankly, how that kind of freed you up even to take
Hmm.
this job. So will you talk about the ESOP and how kind of all that played out?
Yeah, Caden is one of the largest ESOPs. A lot of times it's a smaller business structure, particularly because, when you think about businesses growing, the need for capital grows, and so ESOPs can sometimes not meet those capital intensive needs for, frankly, a business like ours, where we have a lot of buildings and trucks and conveyors, et cetera. But in 2001, Jerry Cahey, it was part of his exit slash next gen setup structure where he moved us into an ESOP, um, and at the time it felt generous to the employees. It felt like it captured his long-term desire for a culture that would be highly effective and focused on our customers, and but also some place where people's lives could be changed if you came to work there. Um, and then over time, when you kind of think about where the having a multi-billion-dollar ESOP today, where we have hundreds of ESOP millionaires that are
Yeah.
hourly employees that come to work every day and they make sure pallets are correctly packed to go to grocery stores, right? They're going out to HEB, they're going to Sprouts, they're going to Albertson Safeway. And these hourly roles are physical. They tend to be transient in the industry. And here we have 20-year plus employees that are multi-millionaires in some cases. So it's just remarkable how it's changed people's lives generationally that have been around KE for a long time, and given the sense of ownership. Um,
Yeah, that's ownership mentality. I mean, it
yes,
seems to be cyclical, right? I think it's sort of in vogue these days. I mean, I've seen, on mainstream television, they're showing private equity firms going, "Oh, we've discovered this new thing about including all of the employees," right?
right.
And you're like, that's been around for a while. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yes.
you guys were doing this almost 25 years ago. So that ownership mentality, and then talk about the foundation. What was kind of the genesis of that, and with a scaled business, kind of how does that affect the culture? And now that maybe that'll be a segue into the second question.
One little mindset shift too that I wanted to kind of plant there.
Yeah,
So we do use the owner language. Now, technically, ESOPs are held by a trust. It's way more
that's
technical
true.
than that, right?
That's
So
true.
so that they don't have vote, they're not voting
Yeah, yeah.
shareholders in that regard. But as the share price goes up, they're
They
benefiting
have
dramatically, and
financial
it's
benefit,
it's compensation, it's a
right?
pension-like device. It actually is a very justice-oriented device if you kind of think about how we're called to live out, as opposed to accumulating a lot of wealth with two or three individuals.
Yeah,
It's spreading it across. in our case, thousands. We have about 10,000 ESOP holders. But we've begun calling them owners and donors.
Ooh.
KeHE gives 10% of its net income into the foundation, which is a private 501c3 organization, every year. And so as KeHE's successful, as the owners are successful, there's a natural mechanism of giving that's occurring coming over to the foundation. And so the way my team and I have been in the foundation are now talking about all the other KeHE employees that aren't in the foundation is they're donors. They are our donors, and we have some other donors besides KeHE, but by far it's a KeHE donation engine that the foundation is running off of. And we want them to feel very connected that as they're packing a really perfect order in the warehouse in, let's just call it Miami or Northern California, as they do their jobs well, you are saving a girl in Nepal who's victimized by sex trafficking, right? You are educating these rural students in the countryside of southern Honduras, and the list goes on and on. You're helping, in the streets of LA or Chicago, or the work of KeHE Cares is going on domestically and internationally, and they are connected. We call it fruit of their labor a lot as well. Is that we want to always share the impact happening on the foundation back to the employees. And so owners and donors is a mindset that I think is really beautiful, and we're excited that we get to help our employees in their own identity about how they think about their work in a more purpose-oriented, if you will, a little bit of a higher calling kind of way, that their work matters. They don't need to go on serving trips. I want them to, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And maybe some of them can't because of their role, but they're connected nonetheless. And we always want to make that connection. So
Yeah.
the dollars flow, Jeff,
Yeah.
and that's super cool. But what Brandon and I, as we were envisioning what this foundation should look like, we both, neither of us wanted it to be what I would call a grant machine,
Yeah.
where we're just we've got dollars in, dollars out. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing to be generous with their dollars. But we felt like we had more to give than writing a check. We wanted to be proximate. We knew that, and we had seen in our own lives that as we were able to get proximate to those that are struggling and suffering in physical ways, that actually not only do we have a shot of them experiencing a more redemptive, restorative outcome, but we were the ones who also were restored in ways that we didn't even know we needed to be.
Ooh.
And so, like, to see that and to go, wow, okay, there's something that's almost mysterious that happens here, and you can see it in scripture in different ways, to see that idea and go, how do we scale this so every KeHE employee can experience it? Like that was kind of the vision. And we began doing some things in our talent processes over on the HR side. We then began to build out the foundation to say, okay, more than just doing grants, we also wanted to do redemptive investing, and we created a leadership academy all within the foundation that really kind of gave this embedded culture seed that could endure over time. And I think that's an incredible structure, if you will, idea, both for generational changes in business, but also even ownership changes. If KeHE would ever, for example, for some reason, sell a bigger chunk to a private equity to fund M&A or to just help growth, this structure is set up to kind of withstand that and be sustainable over time.
It's so interesting to me because when I think about HR, okay, like your old job, I think sort of bland. How do we hire and fire? What's the handbook look like that nobody reads? This sort of thing. It's almost like wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
And then what you're
Toby on The Office. If you ever watch Office
right,
episodes, like Toby, I'm
exactly,
Toby. No, I can't be Toby.
right. Like you see HR coming, you're like, oh, this can't be good.
Right. How do you
Um,
keep him out of the room was always my goal.
right. We need, yeah. Versus sort of what you're describing, which is sort of a live, kind of a vibrant culture where people self-actualize, at work, or you bring their whole self. And so that's one thing that sort of strikes me as like this, there's a lot of like posters, again, I sort of just picture this sort of like posters with, mission vision words written on them that nobody actually knows and nobody actually
Right.
performs to.
Yep.
Uh, and then, okay, we're doing a foundation. It's good marketing, and it's just it's an outward facing. We'll put as little money as possible in it to as a marketing scheme so that the community doesn't get on us for not doing anything. Okay, so forgive me, everyone listening, for being so
Exactly.
negative, but
Yeah.
I just think maybe in my skeptical view that that's kind of how the world operates with these things,
Yeah.
and my brain still hurts from hearing the way you guys do it, like inside of HR. And then, like, I love what you said that the foundation's not just a grant making machine, because for you guys it really isn't. So why don't we get into this thing? Like, I know like mission trips in particular are something that you do inside the foundation, but it actually helps externally, obviously, helping other people going to a place. But talk about the effects that has on the employees you take. Let's get into that a little bit, because I know that's a
Yeah.
big deal.
It's important that, you think about the scale of our
Yeah.
serving, because we started out years ago with doing one trip a year,
Okay.
and this doesn't include, we're helping out a soup kitchen, we're doing a feed my starving children, food pack. We do all of that too. I'm talking about you've got a suitcase, you're going somewhere where you might not speak the language.
Yeah.
Certainly culturally, you're outside your bubble, right? So
Yeah.
if like for us, we might take a trip to the inner city of Chicago. You're going to speak the language, but you're going to feel chaotic nonetheless, because unless you grew up there, it's going to feel like you're in a different world. And so you're getting out of your bubble is the big idea. You're going through some chaos. Well, we started out with one a year. We saw the impact, and we started to build it from there. Now we have about 35, 36 trips happening this year. And over time, we've had almost 3,000 employees that have gone on one of these. We're at about 300 to 330 employees going a year on one of these, what we call a multi-day serving trip. And so there's really two kinds of trips that we do. We have what we call an open enrollment trip, where, hey, everybody, we're going to Guatemala to serve with our partner there in Santa Rosita, and sign up now. It's happening in 3 months or 4 months or whatever. And, we spaces are limited, so sign up. So it's a general announcement. Anyone can go. Those are beautiful trips because titles don't matter. You're just the guy. Can you pack the food and keep up or not? Are you nice? Do you snore? That's kind of the way you evaluate the group. And it's just a beautiful, humanizing experience to have. We had our chief commercial officer on one of those, and here's a sales rep that's 12 layers below him probably, and he's just Scott. That's all he is, and there's no guile.
Hierarchy.
There's no awe of him. Oh,
Right. Right.
it's really cool. The other kind of trip we do, and there's fewer of these, but we embed in our leadership development program, we embed serving as I put air quotes, but a requirement. If you're going to go through some of our next gen / high performance development programs, we expect it. Usually, what we do is we form a cohort. It's a 2-year program, and our next gen kind of VP and above level leaders go through this. you're going to have two international serving experiences. Is kind of the norm. And so we started doing that in 2017, and now, what you have is that serving is just assumed as part of our culture. It is
Yeah.
who we are. It's what we do. We had Wheaton College do a company-wide survey about KeHE and their Center of Faith and Innovation, and they found serving is the distinctive that our employees, recognize that that's what makes us different. That's who we are. That's part of our ethos. And so those cohort trips are seeded with senior leaders. And so again, if you want to think about modeling for the next generation, to see your CEO with no cameras around and no fanfare, getting on his or her knees and building a latrine for a family in southern Honduras, which is a real picture for me because I can see Brandon on his
Right.
knees with a, you know, with a drill and trying to get cement to work on this a latrine. It's a bathroom, okay?
Right.
It's a hole in the ground toilet that we're building for the poorest of the poor. And when you're a next gen leader, seeing your CEO do that, you don't have to ask what servant leadership looks like. It's like there it
Yeah.
is. There it is, right? So anyway, like those are the ways that you embed this is you do it at scale. You try to be really thoughtful about the kind of partners that you're serving alongside through, if you will, how you relate to those partners, and you give people permission to do this, that this is not, oh, it's be nice to be you to be able to go on these trips. Instead, it's like, no, this is who we are. We make room for it. We make time for it. We make it a priority.
I I don't know that we've ever had anybody on the podcast before. Actually I've had conversations with you and Brandon and other members of your team, and this word, like I love that story about the word coming back from the Wheaton survey, like a third party.
Mm.
We're going through that right now at Arcos about, like the voice of the client even. You know what I mean? Like what do other people say about it or the employees say about you? And I love it that serving like wrote bubbled to the top.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well then what do we do? Do we just like slap it on a wall and repeat a mantra? Or how do we reinforce it? And I can't think of a more powerful way to reinforce it than that picture you just painted of the CEO working on the toilet next to somebody else who's, much lower on the food chain or whatever, or in the
Yes.
hierarchy. Uh, so,
I
so
think
what are,
getting proximate is
yeah,
key, and doing it in community is key. And I don't. But I guess what I'd want to be careful is we never want to use poverty as what they
right,
call poverty tourism.
right.
Um, it's not like we're using people in poverty to affect the culture at KE. You got to do it
Mm,
really, really carefully, and we do. My team and I, we nerd out about when helping hurts and doing this in a way that is dignifying. Humanizing is what it really is, and I can go into that.
yeah,
There are a lot of podcasts on that. Alan Barnhart,
yeah.
part of your podcast team does a great job at that, and so I won't. But you need to really pay attention to how you serve, for sure. But if you do it well, the impact to what you're describing is every direction. Everyone wins. It's like an explosion of goodness,
Yeah.
that you're just kind of splashed by. And and sometimes you're kind of scratching your head trying to make sense of it when you come back.
Well, one thing that I'm just thinking about, and I'll just maybe throw it out there as a question to somebody running on the treadmill listening to this is, you know, what do you want to be known for?
Hmm.
If the survey comes back that maybe it's not that clear, being intentional about working toward a word or phrase that you want to be known for, and then creating real experiences that build that. I don't think it has to be that word. That's a really good one, serving. Doesn't have to be that word, but it might be another word that you feel called to. Again, I don't know what that looks like. I just felt like that might be a challenge
Beautiful.
that is out there. And then the other thing that, again, I just keep when I think of foundations, I think of just machines that give, right? So I
Right.
don't really think about it being I mean, clearly it is benefiting society by giving money and time and all of those things, but it's also helping train people internally. Maybe just one more word. And I think you did a good word on you got to be careful the way you do it, but maybe just what does it do about changing the leader to go out and do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great question. And we've studied this to a degree, but one of the things that we talk about a lot is whole person. And my mantra, if you will, if I'm on the treadmill, I'm thinking about the flourishing of our people. I'm
Yes.
thinking about this responsibility for abundant life to come as a manifestation of God's kingdom in the work that we do, and in particularly, I think He calls us to shepherd the people that we're leaders over. And too often, when we think of generosity, it's a check that we're writing,
Hmm.
which is which can be very impersonal. Not that it always is, but it can be very impersonal. Where when you think about shepherding lives that have entrusted your company to come work for you, to me, that's wake you up at night kind of stuff. Like that's accountability kind of stuff. That we're feed my sheep, Peter, is what Jesus said 3 times. And and so it's a sense that um, when we think about leaders, what we want from them is we want them to love the employees while they're getting stuff done incredibly effectively, efficiently, and at a high performance level, right? I want best athletes on the field, finely tuned, doing their craft at the highest. But what we oftentimes will substitute is, well, their character and kind of culture building and how they treat their people. As long as they hit the number, I'm going to look the other way. I'm going to wink at it. I'm going to kind of,
Yeah.
I'm not going to geek out over it or like go to, um, and I think we're accountable to making sure that the leadership at our companies are loving our people and treating our people well because we want our people to flourish. When they flourish, we believe that we'll have the best culture possible, and we think we're honoring God by loving His image bearers in that way. And so I don't want to go to Honduras and love those image bearers really well. And oh, by the way, I'm not loving the ones who are showing up in our 18 distribution centers every day. We're not loving them. We're used because people don't even notice them. So anyway, I'm just kind of holding myself accountable, wanting to challenge anyone who listens to this it's incredibly important that you geek out and nerd out about how your leaders are leading, particularly the
Mm.
way that they're behaving, particularly when the heat is on. And that's when we show our true mettle and the juice comes out. And so we built a leadership program that teaches leaders how to untrigger themselves, how to identify their own trauma that creates these trigger points so that they have the best shot possible at frankly not getting triggered. Yes, the heat is on, but you're still being highly relational. You're leading as your best self is the way we would talk about that. And so we know that wholeness is really, really critical. So how do you help your leaders actually be whole people? That to me is the challenge that then is scalable. Then you can take those programs, and whether you have 100 people, 500 people, or frankly 10,000 people, you can build that kind of resilience into the way you lead. And yes, you want them to be like do the Covey work around trust, do the dysfunction work with Lencioni and all the. I mean, there's so much great material out there, but beyond that, what serving has done is for our people has taken them into waters that no training program actually goes. And it goes to the soul and down to, again, kind of healing waters, if you will, that we've just seen kind of flow across our enterprise and really, God be praised kind of ways.
The picture that's coming to mind uh, is like a virtual circle, um, as
Sure.
opposed to maybe just like some arrows that line up. It's like act decent at work, make money. Okay, you're in the ESOP. That's cool. Yeah, owners and donors. Even that alone is pretty cool, right? That you have this foundation, and then, but I was just picturing, okay, well then the foundation just sends out money. Okay, it's kind of on a
Not a
horizontal.
bad thing. Right. It's pretty good.
Pretty good. I mean, you're probably in the 90th percentile if you set something like that up. Okay. But I think your model actually breaks my brain because I've never seen anything like it before, where it's really this virtual circle of you get the ownership right, the ownership automatically gives, okay, but to a thing that actually does benefit society, flourishing in society and other places around the globe, but also pours into the
Yes.
people who are working there, which makes the culture better, which makes them more efficient at work, which probably increases the profits and retention, which drives more into the foundation, and the circle continues.
Yes.
You're able to hire more people, expand the
You got
company.
it. You nailed it.
It's this virtuous circle as opposed to a sort of static, make it, dump it, go make some more.
Yep.
And what we're not going to say out loud is it doesn't really matter how we behave. And I mean, everybody wants a good culture, but it doesn't necessarily improve the culture by what it actually does. I just find that to be
Yep.
fascinating, and I think there are others. Like you mentioned Barnhart. I mean, I think they've got all those giving committees, and those people travel, and that does help. And I know that they are wanting to send more people on mission trips. I know they've been
Right.
inspired by what you guys are doing to
Well,
send
yeah.
more people.
Part of what we felt called to do in the foundation as well is to work with other organizations and make those connections. And so we've been informed and blessed by so many like Barnhart and how they give and how they care for their employees. And so it's been awesome through the foundation to connect to these other organizations. RTI is a great one down in Houston. There's a long list of them that have these amazing founders and CEOs. Um, and what for us, because serving at scale is kind of unusual, that's where we've tried to create some room for companies to come join us if they're curious. Like, how do you even do this? How do you
Right.
do it well? I don't like I've got questions, and so we say, well, come with us, and we have a trip coming up in October actually, where we've got a number of organizations already signed up to come along with us.
So if people want, I know you have a heart to help other people think through this. If they want to learn more, what's the right way to engage?
Yeah, I think you could either go to khecares.org, which is the KE Cares Foundation site. We have all the, you know, contact us, click
Yeah.
through kind of things there that you could jump into. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Paul Reichert runs our Leadership Academy. Paul's another person that it would be an amazing point of contact. They could reach out to you because you've got my contact information.
Yep.
But yeah, we have this movement that we are seeing start to form. Right now it's being called the Goodness Movement, maybe the Goodness Collective, maybe the Goodness Forum. We're actually not sure about what to call it, but it's a group of companies that are gathering. We're at maybe 40 or 50 are gathering right now with virtually, and then a couple times a year in person, and it's more of that practitioner level, Jeff, where
Yeah.
it's maybe not designed for, not that the founder can't come or the CEO can't come, but it's almost like the head of HR, the head of stewardship. Uh, in my case, those were blended together into one
Yes.
role. That they're looking for really practical ways like, how do I go serve? I want to go serve. How do I do it? And we're trying to help each other. Hey, I want to give more. I want to do whole person leadership. How do I even do those things? So we're trying to get really practical through these gatherings to help one another down this road of goodness.
Yeah, I attended one in Memphis, and it was amazing. So I'd encourage people to reach out if they're interested in that. As we wrap up, this has been so much fun, Rusty. The thing we always try to leave people with is just a practical tip. Maybe things are going well in the business, maybe it's starting to scale, and you're thinking, there's a owner listening to this that thinks, golly, we really need to be doing more in this way. What's just something simple that they could think about doing tomorrow that would move them in the right direction?
Yeah, I love that question. And some of it are things that I've said perhaps, but
Right.
I would say connect the calling of generosity to care for employees. And I know organizations do that. I know that, there's organizations that offer Christian counseling or free counseling. They offer marriage retreats. They think outside the box in terms of how do you care for your employees. But I think that building something that's enduring, it starts with a mindset. And I would encourage an owner just to really spend time praying about that and really getting alone with the Lord and really kind of forming a deep opinion and perspective on their employees in your gut, kind of a thing. And if it gets there, and then you build a team around you that share that within the organization, because you can't do it alone. Even if you're a 50-employee company, you as a leader need others that can help you execute this. I would love it if it was the head of HR, but if not, what I would say that you could do on Monday is think about the right org structure that not only can start doing these kinds of good things, and maybe at the beginning it needs to be on a corner of somebody's desk that is passionate this way. That's okay. I did it that way for a long time, but eventually, and especially if you have margin, you need to hire this. And maybe it's your local Young Life director. Maybe it's a life coach that you just go, man, this person has the whole get somebody on staff that owns this stuff. Because without someone owning it, like any other initiative in the business, it just doesn't happen. And I can tell you, Brandon did that with me. I did that with a few others.
Yep.
And so, not that you want to break the bank, but be generous with actually deploying a head count towards these kind of initiatives, and it'll happen. You're giving yourself a shot. That something generational can perhaps happen within your business too. So that's culture as leaders do. Obsess about it. Learn about it, pray about it, and then structure your business to actually go out and do something about it.
I love that. Pray for a clear vision, and then enlist help, which is probably going to mean deploying resources, sort of by definition, but put a little weight behind it, a little budget behind it too. So
yes.
I think that's a great place to stop. And Russ, I can't thank you enough for being with us this week.
Yeah, what a blessing. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Share it with a friend, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.